All opinions expressed on any program are those of the producer and or persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of DCTV. All producers and guests appearing on programs provide information and opinions based on information they consider to be reliable. DCTV does not affirm the completeness and accuracy. All DCTV members agree to adhere to DCTV's statement of compliance and are participants in a community medium forum where they're exercising their freedom of speech.
Good evening. I'm your host, Karen Udis. This show is a series that has been coming to you from DCTV since 2015 in a weekly program called the Network of Global Corporate Control. Today's program is called Loose Ends. Thank you to DCTV, to Carmen Stanley, Project Director, to Maurice Jackson, Studio Director, and to Cruchet Starnes, Audio and Prompter. I'm calling this show Loose Ends because we have a lot of loose ends. I've been wondering when this day would come. This morning, that is early in the morning on the day that this segment was pre-recorded, something special happened. The special thing that happened is that we are finally operating on the same page. I posted several answers to questions that people were asking in the comments section for the April 30th show about how we're doing in the global currency reset. The Banking Cartel and YouTube were caught in the act as the liars they are. Reality is reality. I woke up early to try and finish writing the script for the pre-taped segment on DCTV's series and found some unanswered questions. I thought it would be better to try and answer the questions before finishing the script for DCTV. So I wrote the answers and posted them on Twitter and Scribd. Based on our experience, there is bound to be a lot of backpedaling. The Banking Cartel has been in denial for a very long time, and bad habits are hard to break. Let me tell you about the questions that I answered. Someone named Human Earthling said, I don't understand how the Banking Cartel, if it's supposed to be bankrupt, can still have funds on hand to pay their stooges to geoengineer the extreme weather going on all over the world and all over American cities. And my answer, you're confusing paper currency and gold. We are moving to the real currency, which is gold. The Banking Cartel has no gold. The bankers are printing paper currency. The whole point is to stop this nonsense by switching to gold in the global currency reset. And then I have a link to some of the things that I've previously posted. And someone named David Quinones had said, Karen, can you describe what are the tiers level transformations for the central bank? Is that a central bank transformation? I'm unclear. And my answer, you're ahead of me. I tried to figure out what you meant when you asked this question a couple of days ago, and I gave up. We are all going to have to work together, that's for sure. The central banks are still not willing to level with us. I'm in contact with them only on a nuisance level. That's to say, the central banks are intensifying their attacks. This leaves me uncoordinated, but doesn't do much else. My left hand doesn't type very well now. And I'm in contact with the central banks using the common law to bankrupt their agents, like the chair of the World Bank and IMF Development Committee, Ken Ofori-Atta. The notice of default went to the Ghana embassy for Ken on the 6th of May after he tried returning it to me. And the second notice of default is going tomorrow. That's the day that I'm pre-taping this. That is the 8th of May is when it's going. To Jerome Powell, he's the chair of the Federal Reserve, and to David Malpass, who is the president of the World Bank. Regarding monoatomic gold actually further calcifies your pineal gland. Let's just say it's risky. If you want to improve and detox your pineal gland, try to do it naturally. Get your water from natural sources, but clean boil the water before drinking it. Also with no fluoride. Hemp or cannabis plants and some mushrooms, and then the comment gives you the type of mushroom, will help improve the brain activity greatly so that it's easier for you to detox and access your pineal gland. Please start taking these plants in small doses first. Start small and slow if inexperienced. These are all natural methods that can be used. If you're wise, try to stay away from any products being sold on the market or online, like monoatomic gold, because you don't have the right equipment to test what that white powder really is made of. Or you may not have the knowledge, like chemistry, to know exactly what you're buying. Getting your detox from plants is much better in knowing it came from the original natural source. There's a lot of discussion in the comments section on monoatomic gold. My point is that we need to acknowledge this subject and do serious work on it. I see various links to articles on the internet. That's no serious way to make progress. We need to get serious and figure out what happens to monoatomic gold when it reaches the melting point and what its special properties are, along with all the other topics involving hidden knowledge. The first thing we need to learn about is who we are. That's my point. And Johnny LaRose said, Don Nance's White Dove at the Ocean Alchemy is a place where you can buy monoatomic gold. And a person who calls themselves Cogito ergo sum, that means I am. He said to Johnny LaRose, sorry, bud, I'm not buying something from a website. I'm doing it naturally, indigenous style. Be one with, that's the name of this person. Great talk, Karen. I can see you're more relaxed, more comfortable talking your points, which is an indicator of certainty. Well done. The Banking Cartel, also known as Octagon, also known as Black Nobility, also known as Templars, the original banksters, with a religious belief in Set, Aton, Isis, Baal, Bull, are freaking out. Now it's endgame, as many fronts on censorship and cyber attacks are occurring. Governments talk about the danger of cyber attacks as they are in the main running hacking teams. Hackers, when caught, are turned to work for the governments. Good advice on mind control, as per Jim Keith, never watch TV and try to avoid movies. Fiat currency systems are designed to fail and have the assets for the manipulators. Now cryptocurrencies are going gold or silver backed, so we can see the worm is turning. And my comment my response to that comment was to thank him. And Alex B. wrote, are we talking 5 more years for the reset to be done, or are we looking at decades? And my response is that we're in a tug of war. I'm not able to say more than that. And Papadapa Car Hauler wrote, Karen, what will happen to pensions during a currency reset? And my response is that we should be okay because of the gold in the global debt facility. That's what the power transition model from the National War College is predicting, and that model is 90 to 95% accurate. Music plays a very important part in our battle with the powers that were, because it exercises our brains, and it connects us, and it helps us to keep on track. One of my central tweets involves music, and there's a link to that tweet. The Banking Cartel is trying every which way to interfere with my communication with the world's peoples. There's great pressure brought to bear on any honest journalist, and that's because I had an invitation from the Forerunner, which I turned down because the journalists are all pressured, and I just don't want to be involved in their pressure. That's why the Banking Cartel attacked my cello teacher. And I sent this to my cello teacher on the 2nd of May. Attack. Dear cello teacher, I heard back from the healer, and they said, Hi, Karen. So, okay, it looks like your cello teacher's heart is being attacked. I will shield them and see if that helps. Love, healer. And I had written to the healer, Dear healer, I'm doing okay, and so is, and then I referred to a family member that's being attacked by the banking cartel. My cello teacher is under intense attack. If you can help, I would be very grateful. There's been a lot going on as the banking cartel tries to maintain control after it's actually lost its grip on power. As far as the transition to reality goes, at some point when the banking cartel is ready to face reality, I expect to be readmitted back to the World Bank, and we can start sorting out some loose ends. To make sure that things remain peaceful, we don't need to rush. The military powers of the world will maintain peace so that hopefully more of us will start grappling with reality. I'm going to put some of my recent tweets in the teleprompter, stating that we, humanity, are the ones that are in charge and not the lying, corrupt bankers. And during our remaining time together, I simply want to speak to you. As I've said many times, our relationship matters, and it does. And I don't know if you recall, but I got a very good advice from a person who I went to their memorial service, and at that memorial service, people were talking about their connection with that person, and that's when I realized, yes, the bonds between us really do matter, and that's something very important. Now, you might say, how can I presume that I have bonds to each of you? And it's very clear I don't. When you're talking to people through a video like I am, that's not really a connection. But as you can see, when I've gotten letters, I scan them and show them to you. There are people who really do feel some kind of connection, and of course, I reciprocate. We are all interconnected in one way or another, and some of us feel it more than others. It's probably a special characteristic that I can sit and talk to you all just, in the middle of a video. But I can. I guess it's because I'm an extroverted extrovert. And so there is a real connection between us, all of humanity. But the most important connection is really not the connection between me and you through video. It's the connection that you have with the people in your surrounding, and you should be reaching out to them. And with word of mouth, that's the way we're going to have the global currency reset. and we're just going to continue to communicate. And I'm now sitting in the center. I'm not partnering with anybody, and that's deliberate because, as you saw in my response to the newspaper reporter, I just have no way of knowing what kind of pressure is being brought to bear on people. I do know that I'm stubborn enough, and I assume that you can tell that I'm connecting to you. I'm not connecting to the bankers. But a family member actually reached out to me, and because I had no way of knowing whether they had been pressured or not, I can give them the benefit of the doubt. But I'm not going to partner with anybody. I'm just going to be sitting here like a spoke in a wheel in the very center. And actually the connections between us, we're going to build them up. All of the communities are going to decentralize, and you're going to be reaching out to the people in your communities. And we're going to be building up from the grassroots up to clean out our world. And I really have no way of knowing how long it's going to take us. Also because of the weaponry. And you can tell right away which person is influenced by the scalar weaponry. You just start talking to them about it. And if they act like they're allergic and they run away and they won't connect with you, then you know that's a person who's being influenced. And you can work yourself loose from this weaponry. And that's exactly what's going to happen. And when people are skeptical about whether or not the military powers are all working with each other, but that power transition model is really quite accurate. And when you realize what it is that's happened, where the bankers showed that they were trying to nuke Charleston in 2013, and they were trying to have a first strike against the Russians, and the Russians lost 25 million people in World War II. No, it's not too hard to realize that, yes, the militaries are very well aware of what's going on and that people are regrouping. And that's the way it is, and that's the way it's going to be. And the bankers at some point are going to realize that they're not making any progress. And when I said that things are repeating, if you look back and see what I've been tweeting, a lot of times I'll repeat something that I said some time ago. And we really are in a cycle of repetitions. Only the cycles are getting much shorter because there are more people that are on board and more people are reaching out. Now my emails have been going haywire. I can't rely on them anymore. And you'll see also in my Twitter account, it's the communication is a little bit difficult. But that really is not a hindrance because it shows people that there is a banking cartel that's interfering. And that's every bit as much of a communication as something that comes directly from me. And you'll also know in your world where you've been interfered with and why. And you can just take it from there. I don't have to be in relationship to everybody. People can be in relationship with their communities once you know what's happened. And it's really very well documented, and we can continue to document. One of the very interesting things to see is how our history has been rewritten. What we're learning in school about our history is not what happened before the 1600s. Somebody went and tore up all the original documents, and then they wrote it the way they wanted to write it. Now, a history written by the bankers, that's not our history. So we're gonna have to go back and reconstruct what actually happened. And in the meantime, you're going to have to figure out. You're going to have to do a little bit of work. And if you don't want to do the work, it's certainly up to you. You can find somebody else who's done the work and just rely on them. And I'll tell you what I've learned from other people. You'll see if you want to. A guy named Freeman has given you a tool for how you can do a word search on everything that I've tweeted. because I can do a word search too, but pretty frequently the keywords that I'm using don't call up what it is that I need to know. And I can't remember everything that I've ever said. But yes, a lot of people have been giving me very good information that I've passed along. And we're going to be doing a lot more of that, and systematically. So we're in control, and we're not in any rush whatsoever, because, yes, the militaries are very well aware of what the banking cartel was trying to do, and they're not going along with it. They're siding with the people in their countries. Now, if anybody's worried about the way the World Bank and the IMF are set up, yes, they are dominated now by the banking cartel. But as the countries get their the governments become genuine. Right now, all of the governments are just corporations, and they're not real governments. So as the governments are formed by their people, we're going to find out that the Secretariat of the World Bank and IMF is going to be much less corrupt, and the corruption is going to continue to recede slowly as we clean up our world. Once we know where we are, and it's truly, the corruption is mind-boggling, and it's going to take a very long time for us to be able to interact with each other in a reliable way. There are gatekeepers in just about every single institution, and once you know that, it's pretty clear who these people are, and they're not. It's not going to be a rewarding thing to keep that. And the money that the bankers have, that they print, we're still going to use their paper currency for quite some time, because you can't just stop having money. That'll put the economies in a tailspin. But gradually, their source of interest is going to diminish over time, and we'll take our time. We don't have to do anything suddenly. But what I expected, as people realize that they're not going to be, our esteem for them is certainly going to be diminished. That's an understatement. And I don't think anybody is going to want to be out in front as a stooge for the banking cartel. And the people that we've bankrupted, they really are at some point going to be losing all of their privileges, and we don't have to punish them. We don't have to spend a lot of time and attention on them. They know who they are. They know what they've done, and they can learn from their mistakes. We really are all in this world together. Now, there's a lot of talk about ETs, and this is simply talk. The people that think they've been interacting with ETs, that's mind control. They haven't been interacting with ETs. And anybody who starts talking about ETs, you'll see I've blocked them. I don't consider that a fruitful conversation to have. And I don't want anybody to be reaching out to people that are following me and talk about disinformation. So perhaps I've blocked too many people, but if you think that I've blocked you and you really do have something to contribute, nobody's stopping you from coming back to me and asking for me to try to unblock you. And I'll try. I'll see what I can do. But I don't want our communication to be dominated by people who are secretly agents for the banking cartel. You'll see that I've identified a number of these people. They're actually quite easy to spot. And at one point, I did find somebody and accused them of being what's called a sock puppet. And they were an actual human being. And when I realized that, I apologized. And yeah, I'm very, very, very willing to admit when I make a mistake. And I'm going to be on the line. I'm going to have to be transparent. And if I'm getting in the way of people communicating with each other, then I want to stop doing that, because that communication among ourselves, that's what's going to end the corruption. But the very first thing you have to do is you have to keep an open mind, and you do have to try to figure out how deep the corruption has gone. And it's mind-boggling. It took me many years, actually, before I could admit it and I could see it for what it was. It was, it's almost mind-boggling, because every single institution has been dominated by the banking cartel. Until next week, I'm your host, Karen Hudis. It's my privilege to make sure humanity keeps our wealth. Our true nature is part of our wealth. We're much more loving and peaceful than many of us know. We've been alienated from ourselves, and we've been alienated from each other. We're learning how to fix the corruption in our money, and we're taking another look at our basic relationships as well. As the truth comes into sharper focus, we have a lot to be thankful for. Peace be with you.